Hey, it's Aiden from EDMProd. I've been producing for over 10 years.
And I'm Luca, and I've been producing for maybe just a bit over 5 years as well.
Yeah, and today, basically, we're going to dive into the fact that there's a lot of mistakes producers make in the early days. And we want to share what we've experienced over the time, what we've been producing, and want to help you guys out.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about a few different topics relevant to learning producers and sort of what we wish we knew at that time.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about consistency, stock tools, and also just like simplicity in production.
Yeah.
Also, if you want some free music production resources, be sure to check out that free downloads page in the description below.
All right, awesome. So the first thing we wanted to talk about is the whole concept of working on music regularly.
Yes.
I think that's something like a lot of beginners, and I didn't think like this, a lot of beginner producers don't probably think about. They just kind of are like getting into it and not sure how like having a consistent, way of working on music can be beneficial.
Yeah, I think working on music regularly is important, but like the actual way that you get to the regular outcome of working on music is by enjoying the process, right?
Yes.
Like, so working on music regularly, but like not making it a chore, like making it like you want to work on music regularly and just like, being motivated to drive the improvement. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. What do you think motivates you?
Each stage of the production journey is going to be different, right?
Yeah, sure.
But I think in the early days, it's just got to be like a drive to want to improve. And just like, I think one of the best things about when you're beginning anything is that you've got the quick gains pretty quickly because everything's new and you're learning. So, law of diminishing returns, you're learning lots of new things and you're improving. So just like trying to be motivated by improvements.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also feel like finishing in those times as well, like when you're early, you're new to production, you're actually finishing songs. I feel like each song you finish is kind of like another little burst of momentum to keep you going.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like when I started out, I was just always starting new ideas and I was experimenting and having fun, but I kind of often got demotivated because I never actually finished anything.
Yeah.
I think finishing tracks a lot earlier, like once I switched that a bit later down the track, I think that's when I started like getting more motivated and kind of, as you say, enjoying the process. I think that's so important. Like, because if you start like hating it, that's when the motivation will stop. And I think that's why a lot of producers do end up giving up.
Yeah. No, finishing is an interesting topic because it's kind of like one of those things, especially in the early days, is like, how do I finish? I know that I need to finish, but like, how do I get there? You know?
Exactly. And like, because it's like, what is a finished song?
Yeah.
Like, is it the mix down? Is it the and I think that's a really interesting point because it's like, once I stopped thinking of a finished song as like a specific thing that needs to happen, it's like more of a decision. I think, you decide when the song is finished rather than, there being an arbitrary end that you have to reach, because I think that's what perfectionism is, and I think that also stops people from finishing and working on music regularly.
I think that like at the beginner level, like just trying to get to a point where you think it's more closer to finished, or just like continually trying to pursue the track will make a big difference, because like it's hard to know, like you said, when something is actually finished. So
100%, man. And we are definitely launching something early next year, which is going to be really exciting with finishing. So keep a little eye out for that.
Watch this space.
Watch this space. Exactly. It's good.
For me, it was like when I was waking up in the morning and just thinking about music production and just wanting to produce music. That's when I was really making those gains and improving.
Like you wake up, you're excited. You actually want to dive into the DAW rather than dreading it. I've experienced both. And I think it is a lot of it's mindset, like around how you approach music. Like, don't let music become something you hate to do because you're approaching it in a certain way. Like,
And that's not to say that like, you'll have those days. There's always going to be those days and those weeks, and it's always up and down.
I think the thing is, it's like, if you are really having a bad week or something as well, like people get so down about like missing a day or something. It's like, I think it's more important that you like just accept what is, and then you get back on the train whenever you can. Because it's like, if you get mad at yourself, it just makes you, it lengthens that gap even more.
Yeah.
So if you're mad at yourself, I didn't work on music today. It's like, just accept it for what it is and then pick it back up. You know, I think that really helped me, not criticizing myself because I failed once or something, you know. I think that helps. Yeah.
I think a lot of it sort of comes down to like learning sort of psychology as well. So like, you know, knowing how you learn and what motivates you just in general to learn anything. Like, you know, if you enjoy being like motivated by other people and just like external motivation, then that might be a fact of like telling your friend that you also know is interested in music production, hey, I'm going to start producing music, like check up with me in a month's time. Like maybe we'll share our ideas in a month and see how we're going. Kind of
thing. The accountability thing is huge, I think, for sure.
Just making the whole process fun.
That's it. It's all about the process at the end of the day. Awesome. I think the next thing is on our list is just to learn the stock tools first.
If you can learn the stock tools and learn what you have, then you can just like focus more on actually making music rather than stressing out about getting this or that or the other kind of thing.
Totally. And I think it's specifically in Ableton, but in a lot of DAWs, I think just they're there, you know, you don't have to think about them too much. They usually integrate into the workflow pretty seamlessly too, which is nice. So like, whereas third-party plugins, like, I think it's good to remember the word plugin, like they're an extra plugin to the environment. They don't necessarily, you know, like Serum's a great synth and I love it, but you know, it's not necessarily designed to be used in Ableton or designed to be used in FL Studio. It's kind of general.
I think this is a really interesting topic because like music production is one of the ones that is so crowded by extra plugins. Whereas if you relate that to like something like Photoshop, there's plugins that you can get and like video editing software. There's plugins that you can get, but like most of the tools, 99% of what people use is stock tools.
Totally,
and it's so interesting that music production is so different. Like they still provides the stock tools, but like we just use plugins.
That's such a good point. For some reason, maybe there's another space out there that's also similar, but I do, because I've done some Photoshop stuff in the past, and I just did it all in Photoshop. I think the main thing I downloaded when Photoshop was like maybe some like graphics textures and stuff like that, maybe, but never plugins.
Extra fonts.
Extra fonts, So it's like, why? Like, I think that kind of applies, you know, like I'd rather, you know, get more samples or presets rather than, you know, get more plugins, because a plugin's a bigger commitment. It's like a whole learning environment, whereas a sample's like just another sound to use, you know? Or a preset's just another sound to use based on something you already understand. So that is very interesting though. Like I've never thought about it like that. That's so true. I think you can do a lot with just what is included, and I think you'll come out with more interesting results than people who download a lot of third-party plugins would get, because they're so caught up in trying to learn these tools. Whereas like, you know, I think it's a tool. You know, like if I'm looking for an EQ, I'm going to use the EQ for a purpose. I'm not going to use, you know, find a purpose for something that I've got for the sake of it. I think people go flip that around. It's like, I have to find a use for my Sound Toys Decapitator or something like that, which is a great plugin, by the way. You know, I have to use it in my mix. It's like, you don't have to use it. Like you use it when you think, oh, I need a saturator. Okay, maybe the Ableton stock one won't suit this exact context or whatever, because it's too, you know, clean sounding, and I want something a bit more, you know, unpredictable and analog. That's when it's a good idea to like do that. And I basically only buy my plugins now when I have a missing need. I think that's my rule for
it's true, because like you only really need one EQ and one compressor and like one, you know, there's these different styles of everything, and that's where plugins come in. But like, especially when you're learning, you only need one of each thing to make there's only a certain amount of tools, and there's only a certain amount of modulation devices and effects that you can have before you have everything.
Exactly. Like, okay, and the differences between the plugins, like honestly, I think one thing I did a lot in this topic is like, I got so caught up on I had to have analog everything. Like analog's great, like, because there's a lot of analog modeled tools out there now. But I think that drew me away from actually really powerful tools that were digital, and I'm like, oh, it's digital, I don't want that. It's not really like my sound. It's like, well, now I actually use pretty much mostly digital tools, like, or digital sounding tools, because that's kind of what I needed. I didn't know it at the time. And I think, you know, the reality is like, a listener isn't going to be able to tell you use like a Roland Space Echo.
Yeah.
You'll be able to tell, and yes, it will make things sound different.
Yeah.
But it's like the fact of the matter is what you're using at the end of the day is a delay.
Yeah.
You know, you're using a delay effect, and
Yeah.
the only difference is going to change is a slight difference in the characteristic of that delay, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you're like chucking delay on rather than knowing when is specifically needed, that's when I'm like a red flag for me, because it's like you're clearly not understanding the use case or where you actually want to use a delay.
Yeah.
You're just chucking it on because I don't know, Jamie XX uses the Roland Space Echo or something, you know, like that.
Yeah.
I think one thing that to end this topic on is like, you know, if you look at someone like Deadmau5, who's got all these huge amounts of like modular rack gear in his studio and like crazy amounts of outboard gear, it's like, where's he spending 99% of his time? It's like in Ableton.
In the door.
Using Serum, like, or like, and like maybe a EQ, like, like Ableton EQ or something, you know, like, I think, you know, the third party tools are great, but just sticking with the basics is ultimately what it comes down to. So,
a last topic we're going to mention is just not overcrowding your productions. And like, this is an interesting thing. And I think it's definitely something that sort of you learn over time of producing. Yeah. But, you know, simplicity is key. Simplicity and less is truly more.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is, I think that I struggled with is like seeing a producer who had like, you know, 150 tracks in their project or something like that. And I'm like, oh, how does he use that? It's like, don't just look at someone else and be like, oh, they used 150 tracks, therefore I have to. And then you're adding in like, you know, 3 different synths that all have different layers, plus a pad, plus like a bass line that has like 3 different layers. You know, like that's when it's just like, everything has to have a purpose.
Yeah. I think the classic question is like, how many tracks do you use?
It's like, how many tracks do you use in your projects? It's like, as many as I need to get the track done. Like, is that the right answer?
Maybe it should be like, how many elements do you use, or like, how many parts do you like using, or like, like what style of song that you do. Like, I
love this thing. I think we were talking about the other day is like the band mentality.
Yeah,
drums, piano, bass, guitar, maybe vocals if it's a like non-instrumental. But it's like 5 elements.
Yeah,
and most of the time 3 of those are going to be like the main ones. You know, like in rock, it's guitar, drums, bass, or guitar, drums, vocal in a vocal section, you know? Yeah. Like, if you're really struggling with like overcrowding your productions, I think you should just like stick to 3 elements.
Yeah. It's a really great point, because like, you know, the band mentality is kind of that we only have these 3 elements and they have limited functions and what they can do. Maybe you can put an effect on or something.
Yeah.
And you can change the rhythm around if you want to progress the song, but like that's pretty much all you can do. Like, and that's enough, you know?
Yeah.
That's more than enough.
And I love this thing you wrote down before we made this video, is this whole idea of the attention pie.
Yeah.
It's like that energy that you've got that you're putting into like complicating one song, you could have made like either improve the existing elements in your song that are there. Like, you know, if your piano isn't the best, don't look to layer in like some extra, you know, synth. Look to like change the MIDI or find a different piano sound, or mess around with the sample if it's a sample, whatever it is. Like, put the energy you're putting into complicating the song into actually improving it.
Yeah,
because there's all limited time and energy for these things, right?
And that's not to say like as a beginner, I totally understand when people put more in, because you know, you don't really know what you're doing, and like that's the general gist of it. So you're just sort of experimenting, putting things in there, seeing how it sounds.
Yes.
But like as you put more in, I'll get back to the attention pie in a moment, but like when you crowd the mix, then the groove can't shine through. And like I was listening to some of my mates' tracks, and giving feedback the other day.
Nice.
And it was just like you have a really good groove there, but I just want to listen to it. You know, I actually want to hear it, and like it's really good. You've nailed the groove, but you're just, these other elements in there are not allowing me to actually get into it. You know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And this comes back to the like idea is that we only have a certain amount of attention to give per track. And as the more elements you put in there, the more the attention is split, and you have less attention to give to the bass line, or less attention to give to the groove. So like when you have less, each element has more attention and has more emphasis and focus, and that allows each thing to be better.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's there for a reason. It's playing the purpose you put it in there, rather than like each element you add actually lessens the impact of all the other ones that exist there. It's like, you know, there's, if the song is 100%, you know, and the bass line is 50%, and it's a drums and bass line, when you add a pad, that bass line suddenly comes 30%, you know, so if you think of it like that, it's like the attention pie. And I feel like, you know, that energy, having the simplicity you can put into making more tracks, like we we're talking about in the first topic. I think, you know, chucking things in, like you were saying, and then but also being okay with deleting things. I think that's the thing I'm realizing this now. Like, I struggle with that. It's like I added something and my ego for some reason was like, you needed to keep this in now. If you've got ego problems like I do, and many producers do, like where it's like, I've written this idea, now I have to use it. Just delete it, or like just save it for another tune, because not every tune has to have 5 ideas in it. The best tunes have one solid idea that's just developed.
Something that I've just been getting into more and more recently is B sections. I'm sort of experimenting with like interesting arrangements that are a bit weird, and like B sections, and swapping things up but still keeping it solid. So it's like
exactly. I think B sections are a great tool for just making, you know, in the middle of a song, making it a bit more interesting. So I think that pretty much covers the main things we wanted to talk about in this video. Obviously there's a lot more we could probably talk about.
We could go on forever. But.
Well, I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Remember to give this a like if it was good, and hit that subscribe button as well for more content from myself and Luca.
Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you in the next one.
We'll see you in the next one.